It's hard to believe that it's only been a month since PlayStation announced the end of physical discs for new games starting in January 2028. After all the backlash from millions worldwide, the concerns about video game preservation, and the questions about what this means for the next generation of consoles, there was initially only silence. Then came apathy, as the publisher went about its business as usual, advertising the Flex Strike fighting stick, since delayed to an unknown date, and upcoming titles like Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, Marvel's Wolverine, and even Laufey, which revealed a release date. There's even that new trailer for Zach Kreger's Resident Evil that admittedly looks pretty slick, if not entirely Resident Evil-y. But there is a near constant barrage of comments against the company's policy, whether on Twitter, YouTube, or everywhere. A demand for physical discs, regardless of whether the game in question, like Wolverine or Laufey, are already confirmed to have physical releases. I haven't seen every single comment out of the currently 7,000 or so on the latest story trailer for Insomniac's latest game, but amid all the scrolling, I think there were maybe 2 comments that had nothing to do with physical discs. So regardless of the side that you fall on, it's a constant barrage showing no signs of slowing down, which has infested just about every new tweet and trailer uploaded on the PlayStation channel. Small third-party indie game, AAA blockbuster, character guide, nothing is spared.
You're right, we ain't too popular in Blackwater.
We left a lot of money there.
Various analysts say that PlayStation anticipated this backlash, to the point that, according to former Sony Santa Monica writer Alana Pierce, it's allegedly issued its strictest media guidelines yet. And that information apparently comes from those within PlayStation Studios itself. Sony knew it would get so bad to the point where a response, any response, would not help, so it chose to remain apathetic. Not even a cliched let them eat brioche, just silence. And depending on who you ask, it's because discontinuing physical games is a foregone conclusion for the company. Chet Falasek, who wrote Left 4 Dead and Portal, says it bluntly, quote, "You, the consumer, have made a choice, and your choice is for digital. You, as the consumer, have forced the large corporation's hand, and you've told them, stop with retail. You should have started protesting Game Pass and stop buying Xbox games and stop buying digital, but you didn't, because it's easier." That last point is all the more noteworthy because it did in fact stop Xbox from shipping the complete game on its discs. Even recent releases like Halo Campaign Evolved required downloading the Day 1 patch upon first booting the game before you can even play offline. Far be it from this being a new practice, as we've pointed out before, even games like Crimson Desert cannot be played from the disc without a patch. Others, like former Rockstar co-founder Dan Houser, have been more neutral, not personally caring about physical games, but believing that if people want that, I think companies should provide it. One good example of this is the limited physical edition of Mortal Shell 2. It sold out on PS5, exceeding publisher PlayStation's expectations. Even if this isn't as widely available as a standard physical release, surely it proves that even limited editions have a market, and that Sony shouldn't abandon discs entirely. But alas, the powers that be probably are not looking at such niche scenarios. It's also likely not looking at sites like doesitplay.org, which keeps track of physical releases and whether they're completely playable offline. On the PS5 side, a whopping 66% of titles don't require a download at all for the optimal experience, while an additional 17% maintain the core experience even if it would benefit from a Day 1 patch. Granted, this doesn't encompass every single PS5 title in existence, but 790 entries is no small number either. And you can probably forget about PlayStation considering the used games market, reportedly valued at about $7.5 billion last year, especially with how the industry has been combating it for decades at this point. So what is it looking at? Well, probably the latest data from Circana, which pointed out how video game spending on physical discs in the United States has been on a steady decline, going from a whopping $11.9 billion in 2009 to $1.6 billion so far this year. And believe it or not, the latter actually increased by 3% in the last 12 months ending May 2026, quite some time before Sony made this announcement. Quote, "Yes, physical currently matters far more in some places than it does in others, and digital isn't a great option in some places, says Circana's Matt Piscatella. Quote, "The console manufacturers know all of that." Another interesting set of figures: during the week ending July 11th in the US, only 2 PlayStation titles sold more than 10,000 physical copies. In this year alone, only 7 titles have sold over 100,000 physical units. And if they managed those figures, imagine the millions who bought them digitally. All of this, coupled with its apparent social media strategy, is enough to make you think that PlayStation does not care. Do the benefits outweigh any potential negatives? Is an all-digital future really the way to go? It doesn't matter because what's done is done, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Or is it? No matter what direction the industry has been trending, PlayStation's vision is not without flaws. Look no further than the recent PlayStation Network outage, which affected everything from the PlayStation Store to games that required multiplayer. Do the majority of players care that the root cause of these issues is Amazon Web Services servers? Or are they more concerned that they cannot experience the Marvel Tokon open beta for hours on end? I'm gonna leave you to decide that answer, but what happens in an all-digital future where such outages become more commonplace? Hell, what about later this year when Grand Theft Auto 6 launches? Given that it's inherently digital, even if you buy the physical edition, what happens if Rockstar maintains its pre-order momentum and, at a minimum, 37 million players try to preload the game a week before launch? Even if things are stabilized by launch, who's to say that the online infrastructure will hold up for the potential tens of millions more players in that first week? At this point, you could look at it as neither side's willing to budge, but I think PlayStation has already moved on. Like a breakup that only it knew about and which happened years before fans finally felt the effects. And as corny as it sounds, the fact that it knew there would be such significant backlash, regardless of whether it goes away today, tomorrow, next week, next year, or never, is a sign of the times. Maybe it won't really matter to the majority when the PlayStation 6 is announced and costs almost $1,000 because the graphics are so pretty and it runs Grand Theft Auto 6 in native 8K at 120 FPS. It may not even matter to the same subset of people when Intergalactic gets its first gameplay deep dive and looks fantastic. Irony of a far future with physical music discs notwithstanding. Because as far as PlayStation is concerned, as long as millions upon millions continue buying games on the store, purchasing consoles, and subscribing to Plus, everything is fine, even as the garden's wall closes ever tighter.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.